Hi, this is John with Good Burger Reviews, and I'm here to do a brand new 2025 movie review. And that movie is called Into the Deep.
Mayday, I've got divers in trouble 50 miles due west.
Would you look at the size of that thing?
This movie is currently streaming on Hulu. It is starring Richard Dreyfus, Scout Taylor Compton, and John Cena. Modern-day pirates on the hunt for sunken drugs kidnap a boat of tourists and force them to dive into shark-infested waters to retrieve the contraband. Fish are friends, not food. That seems to be the main theme to this movie. Okay, so let's dig into the Deep. I just finished filming part of my Jaws segment as we reach the 50th anniversary of Jaws, and I noticed that Hulu just received a brand new 2025 movie streaming, and it has a shark in it. It's a shark movie. And Richard Dreyfus is in it. Not a sequel to Jaws, but just Shark Dreyfus. And then you have Scout Taylor Compton, who played Laurie Strode back in 2007 in Rob Zombie's version of Halloween. So when I saw all that wrapped up together, I thought, this could be good. But my judgment as well says shark movies, especially ones that come straight to streaming, can tend to be rough. There's only been a few solid shark movies since Jaws, and now we're on its 50th anniversary. It's a long time of bad shark movies. So, where do you think this one's gonna come in at? Let's see. Just to give you a taste of what I was in for, there is a scene where Scout Compton Taylor has a staring contest with the shark while the cast of Nemo watches. I'm not lying. What? Why? Wow? LOL? All of that? I mean, I was in shock. So this movie is it's a mess. It's a mix, but it's a mess. It's something else. So, like Richard Dreyfus. So I figured out why Richard Dreyfus was in this. He did have a whole little throwback to Jaws in there. A couple lines, famous lines that he said in the Jaws script. He reiterates with different context. Well, basically the same context, but he's a different character in this one. And I believe the one line was, the sharks were here millions of years before, and they'll be here millions years after. Before us and after us. Basically, sharks have survived a lot. And meanwhile, the big thing at the tail end of this movie, he gets into a little personal speech from him directly to the viewers during the credits. He wants to save the sharks because many shark species are endangered, especially due to shark finning. So props to you, Richard Dreyfus, filming a shark movie with a cause. However, his role in the movie. So he never even has a scene with a shark, which was disappointing. And I guess, it could be because of his age and what would he do, what could he do, trying to escape these sharks. And the role that he played is Scout Taylor's grandpa, and she is very close with him because she had witnessed her father die to a shark when she was super young. And then she grows up, she's, I guess mid-30s, almost 40, and she ends up on this tourist boat where she's going to face her fears from her childhood fear of sharks because her dad was eaten by a shark. And she's going to go scuba diving. So Richard Dreyfus stays on land for the whole movie. He never really deals with the sharks. He's either in Scout's mind, or like his scene is just from land, like just him talking about her coming back. And to me, that was kind of disappointing because like he could have, I mean, I know it was multiple years ago, but he did a real funny scene in the opening of Piranha, which was like an homage to Jaws as well. Jaws is one. I mean, he was well known for Jaws, but he was well known for a lot of movies: American Graffiti, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So I mean, he didn't have like just the Jaws stigma his whole career. And then he did things like Mr. Holland's Opus and many movies over the years. Scout Taylor Compton, I haven't heard from her in a while. I have been watching her and Danielle Harris on YouTube talking about Halloween. And let's see. She did okay. I mean, for what she was given, for what this story was. She's definitely the star. She's confronting her fears, and she gets on this boat, and they basically run with her boyfriend or husband. They run in, and they're with another couple and another guy, and so it's like 5 of them on a boat, and they run into these like modern day pirates who basically they had stashed their drugs at the bottom of the ocean, and they wanted to force tourists to go down and get it so that they didn't have to risk their lives, swimming with the sharks, because there's, sharks swimming around in these waters. Even though at some point it seemed like they filmed this on a lake. I don't know, it never felt like they were in an ocean. And the sharks were very generic and CGI. They were like the worst of what you would see in like Deep Blue Sea or many of the throughout the late 2000s or early 2000s and middle teens movies of shark CGI movies. They did not do anything with a real mechanical shark or anything like that. So that, and then also the majority of the blood was CGI, and the blood was definitely not that good. So this had a very generic and basic feel to it. This probably could have been like an hour TV show, an episode of something. It's very quick. It felt long because the pacing was kind of odd. There was like a shark scene in the opening and then a long time before we see a shark again. And to be honest, the sharks are barely the villains in this movie, which was weird. I mean, they were villainous because they did eat people, but they weren't portrayed as super villainous. In fact, because there were other villains, these pirates were more villainous. They kind of were helping out the situation when they ended up eating half of the bad guys. So the acting other than Scout Taylor was really terrible on everyone else. Richard Dreyfus did okay for what his role was, but his whole part was kind of a distraction because it would always pull away from what was going on in the water and on the boats with these criminals and sharks, pirates and sharks. And, then you'd flash over to him and he'd be, kind of sentimental and emotional and just, giving Scout Taylor inspiration. Like he was her inspiration to face her fears, which that part was kind of nice. It just didn't seem to make sense with what was going on all around her. So other than the shark staring contest with the Nemo audience, this movie was extremely predictable, and you knew where it was going. The sharks end up foiling the criminals' plans. Everything gets all messed up. Their drugs fall at the bottom of the ocean. There's also these other gold pieces involved. They never end up getting that. Basically, it's a happy ending for Scout Taylor Compton. She escapes after confronting the shark, and basically she confronts the sharks in the water and confronts her fear by staring into the shark, and the shark like almost looks like it's smiling at her. So I mean, it was kind of cool in one aspect because it was like nature and animals, and like it wasn't like the shark wasn't such a villain in this part. Like she looked into the shark's eyes, the shark looked at her, and then eventually the shark just swam away. And she gets away with her boyfriend lives, and one of the original good people live. The end. So let's get down to business on this one, because despite some of the interesting things that were intertwined amongst the extremely boring and terrible CGI fest, this movie's rough. A lot of it doesn't make sense. There's this one scene where the Coast Guard shows up and they all got their guns drawn, and the Coast Guard basically gets blown away by these criminals. I thought, well, why'd they show up with their guns drawn anyway? They didn't seem to be approaching it like they were a threat to begin with. They didn't. There's no way they could have known that these people were being a threat from where they were at. So that part didn't make any sense. It was a mix of deaths between sharks and guns, and it was just a blend so much of thriller and action. Kind of like Die Hard action, shoot 'em up action, mixed with people falling in the water and getting eaten by sharks. So, the action was okay. The tension was, there was a few tense scenes. There was probably when some of the criminals died, it was pretty neat. There was this one girl that was kind of friendly with Scout Taylor who kind of ended up getting annoying. And there were so many nonsensical things. Some people will get in the water and be untouched by sharks. Her boyfriend or husband swims off to a canoe that's seems out of the picture and then swims back with a gun. Doesn't ever get touched by the sharks. This girl swims 15 feet away from Scout Taylor Compton and gets bitten by a shark. It just there weren't rules with these sharks. They just kind of came randomly. They went after some people and they just ignored others. So to me, that was nonsensical. I was a little bit torn about what I wanted to give it. I almost was gonna give this a spam, but because of Richard Dreyfus and Scout Taylor, they kept me entertained enough with what they had going on that I'm gonna give it a veggie. This is gonna be a veggie burger because the rest of it really falls apart. So, if you like these CGI shark movies, if you get into all these crazy shark movies that have been out over the last 20 years and you enjoy that and you love a shark feeding frenzy, you can go ahead and watch this. I don't know how much of a frenzy it is. But if you're not into basic generic CGI sharks, then just skip it. This is Johnny with Good Burger Reviews. You can stay scared of the real sharks, but not the CGI sharks.